Hello, this is Vickie Ayres, the Countess of QuickBooks and the Tech Support Specialist for QuickBooks and Quoting with Minutes Matter. This is our Budgets and Forecasting webinar today, and I really appreciate everyone's taking the time out to come in and learn how to set up a budget. It's certainly not the most exciting kind of topic, but it is one of the things that can really get you off to a good start in a new year. And setting up a budget at the beginning of the year, it's one of the best things that you can do to drive your business in a particular direction. It can also give you a sense of real financial freedom if you've got a plan, you're evaluating your plan, and you're seeing how well it's tracking through an accounting period, say once a month or in a quarter. And so we're going to take a look at how to set that up in QuickBooks. I've got a QuickBooks company file open here. And the first thing that you want to do is come up into your company menu, and then you'll see the planning and budgeting options. Now these three tools right here, set up budgets, set up a forecast, and the cash flow projector, are what we're going to demonstrate today. And then we'll be taking a look at the reports that go along with that. First of all, let's take a look at how to actually set up a budget. So we'll choose Set Up Budget. Now the budget that I had open last is the first one to open up. If you've not ever created a budget, then you'll get a setup screen like I'm going to get when I choose this Create New Budget button up here in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to go kind of ahead, and we'll pick the 2011 budget in order for you to see the screens. Create New Budget. It asks me which year I want to create it for. Now QuickBooks will only allow you to have one budget per year. So we are going to choose a profit and loss type of budget, all of our income and expense accounts. That's what that means. And we're going to choose 2011 because I don't want to do anything to my 2010 one that I want to demonstrate with today. So you would just put in the year you need, probably 2010, and choose Next. And you would also choose that you don't want any additional criteria because more than likely you don't want a budget set up by customer and job or class. Now, there are some reasons you might want to do it by class, but that would be an advanced feature if you're using classes. They will say no additional criteria. And then you choose Next. And then you choose, then you want to choose whether you want to create it from scratch or if you want to create it with the previous year's actual data. Now, there's not any data in this company file for 2010, so if we took a look at this with the previous year's actual data, you wouldn't see anything in the budget. But if you've got previous year's data, it will bring in those numbers automatically, just how it happened in the prior year. And that's really my preference for how to create a budget. And when you choose Finish, there's our 2011 budget. Oh, I guess there is some things in there for 2010 in this company file. So see how it gives us a total over here, and then you're able to edit those things for what your plan is based on the numbers that automatically fell into here for this year. So if you were, for example, if consultation time last year you had $9,124.90, you could say, well, if I wanted to do on an average the same as what I did last year, you could type in 9124, and then by using the calculator feature, you can hit divide. The calculator opens up, choose 12, and enter, and that means that you would have to do about $760 a month. So let's say we want to set that up just a little bit. You would go 800, and then once we have the 800 in here, you can use the copy across feature, and then that puts in $800. So you can keep editing all of these numbers that came in by default from the prior year, $79.93 for last year. Divide that by 12. Hit Enter. It was $666. So let's say that we're going to increase our fabric sales this next year. We'd like to increase it a little bit. So we'll just say, okay, we did $666 a month, 1,000, copy across, And then those are your budget numbers for the following year, based loosely on the numbers, plus a little projection for increases on the budget numbers from last year. So that's how you would edit this budget based on last year's numbers that came in automatically. So we'll just hit Save there, and then we're going to hit Close, and we're going to go back and look at the one for 2010. So Company, Planning and Budgeting, Set Up Budgets, and let's choose our 2010 budget. Now this budget right here is one that I've taken last year's numbers. I've tweaked them all to be what I am hoping and praying for this coming year. And this number, though, I left with last year's numbers. So I can demonstrate again, if you have last year's number for the year right here, 4112, 4,112, if you want to see what that is by the month, just to kind of project an average for every month, you can type in 4112, divide by 12 months, and hit Enter. That gives you 342.67, so let's just change that number to 345, copy it across, and now we've got our new number for the budget. Now, as you make changes to the budget, it's a good idea to come down here and choose your Save feature, and now your budget numbers are saved. Now, before I go on to another topic, let me see if we have any questions yet. If you have questions, Elizabeth, I hope you can hear a little bit better. I've just tried to move the mic closer to my mouth a little bit. I hope that works for you. And let's see. If you have a question, you need to put it into the question dialog box in your GoToMeeting dialog box. And then I can answer your questions kind of as we go along. How to use the Calculate feature. The Calculator feature is just something built into QuickBooks. Any field where you can put in a number, like this one right here, you can use the little calculator right in that field. So I'm in the field, that's a number, and then if I type in a number, let's say we want to type in the 4,140, and I want to divide that by 12. There are 4 keys that QuickBooks recognizes as calculator function keys, and that is the slash, that's the slash underneath the question mark, and the asterisk, which is Shift-8, the little star above your 8 key, and then, of course, the minus and the plus keys that are over in the upper right-hand corner of your keys next to your backspace. Now, if you have a numeric keyboard, those function keys are also in the upper right-hand corner of the numeric keypad. So I'm going to hit the slash key to divide. I'm going to type in 12 because I want to divide that by 12 months, and then I hit Enter, and we get the number. And the next question is there any way to use a budget figure from a previous year other than 2009? No, not that I know of. The only way that you could do that would be to take a budget report, export it into Excel, and then you could manipulate your numbers based on a report that had 2008, 2009, and 2010. We'll try to take a look at that when we have reports up a little bit later. Okay, so it seems like the volume is good again, and that's all the questions we have for right now. Let's see. Now, let's go on to taking a look at, once you have your budget set up this way and you've saved it, let's take a look at the budget overview report, because as you're working with these numbers, it's kind of good to take a look at the report as you're going along so that you can keep tweaking the numbers to where you want to be. So we'll go to Reports, and we'll look at the Budget and Forecast Report. And let's just look at the budget overview. It's the very first one. When we click on that, it asks us to choose a budget to use to create the report from. We're going to use the 2010. And it says you can choose the report layout. Account by month is the only one that comes up for this particular type of report, and then choose Finish. Now, we have lots of items that we've set up budgeting for in this particular report. So it's a really long report. We'll bring up the total income at the top, see $11,436, and then we have our total cost of goods, general business expenses at the bottom, for net results of $4,226 profit. Now, see how all these zeros are coming up here? And so they're not really helping our report anyway. So if we go up into the report for Modify the Report, the Modify the Report screen comes up, and you can go to the fonts and numbers and tell it to show all the numbers except zero amounts. And that way, when we go back to OK, and it's a thinking, QuickBooks is thinking very hard. It's removing all of those zeros from our report, and then the report will be a lot smaller and a little easier to manage. So if you're happy with the net income that is at the bottom, then, well now, I didn't have the date parameters set correctly for this. I'm a little concerned because QuickBooks is looking kind of slow. It's trying to build the report. I'd like to cancel the report, but we'll just let it think for a minute. Because the budget report, we had January 1st to January 12th set up for the overview, and we should have set that to the by the month for the whole year. That's not good. When you get that white screen over the top of QuickBooks where it's not responding, it's because it's trying to think through a process, and we'll just kind of quit fiddling with the keys for a minute and see if it will come back out of that. I think I tried to give it too many things to think about at once. I'm going to close QuickBooks and try to reopen. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Sometimes it happens when you least expect it. This is the first time I've ever had QuickBooks 2010 lock up in that way. Okay, while we're waiting for that to happen, are there any other questions that you'd like to type into the dialog box so that I can make sure that I'll get to those in our webinar today? Well, my computer, just in general, has decided not to cooperate. This webinar will be available as a recording later after today, and because of the technical difficulties, I will probably be giving this again and record a version without technical difficulties so that you'll be able to see that without this big gap in it where QuickBooks decided it didn't want to work. I can't reboot my computer because that would close our meeting today. I can't get Task Manager to come up. Debbie?
Vicki, I think you're going to have to reboot. And because I'm an organizer, it'll keep connected.
Okay, so I am going to go ahead and
reboot. Yep.
Reboot,
When this
happens, and I'll come back in a minute.
That's right. All right. We'll wait for Vicki, and she'll be back on in just momentarily. guys, while we're waiting for Vickie to reboot, come back on, you could check your emails for a minute because it'll probably be about 5 minutes or so before she gets rebooted. So go ahead and any questions that you can think of to ask Vickie, go ahead and type those in too and respond to those as soon as she gets back on. Joanne, I think you just asked a question about why we're waiting. So budgeting monthly is, or the budgeting webinar that Vickie's doing, is mostly based on figures from last year's, which help you to project the current year of what you're going to spend, and where you can see where you can adjust those figures. We use the budgeting feature, and it's very helpful. We noticed there was things in the telephone, that we could reduce costs in that. It's really enlightening to see where, when you start putting those figures in monthly, to spread it out throughout the year based on figures from last year, it is really an enlightening report when you start seeing that. And Vickie will be showing a little bit more of how to make it go across the entire report, and then you can adjust different, because some months you may have an expense that's maybe quarterly, so you won't want it every month. You'll just want it in a quarterly figure to show up. And it's really, I think you guys are really, when you start using it, it's very easy too. QuickBooks provides a great feature, and so yes, that's what it's based on. But because otherwise sometimes if you don't have the past figures to go by, it makes it more difficult for you to, or you have to do more research to come up with those figures. So it's kind of like if you didn't enter figures properly for 2009, your budget isn't going to be, your data that's going to be produced or generated in QuickBooks is not going to be as accurate or as helpful as you need. So that is a reason why you want to enter everything in QuickBooks, because it allows you to do so much more with QuickBooks once, because it's the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. So it'll produce garbage if you, or I guess I really mean not helpful data, if you didn't put all your figures in. Let me see if there's other questions. And Amy asked about the additional criteria. I can't remember. I was still setting up to record when that came. I can't remember what the additional criteria was. So we'll make sure that Vickie responds to that, Amy, when she gets back on. And I'm not sure, Jennifer, about the ROI, the return on investment in QuickBooks. I'm not sure that is a feature in QuickBooks, and I don't know if Vickie's investigated that or not. I think Vickie is back online, so I'll see if she should be here in just a minute.
Muted.
Janine, are you still hearing static? Can you type back in? Janine was saying she was hearing static. I see Kathleen's, it stopped right before I said something. Okay, all right, looks like everybody's saying it stopped. So Vickie's dialing in right now. She's joined the video portion, but she's dialing in, so she'll be coming. I know you just love this narration of me telling you exactly the steps for Vickie. I mean, yeah, for Vickie joining back again. It appears that I don't still see Vickie, so let me try to call her on her cell phone. And we will be either offering this at a, she may just start over because it barely got started, or definitely everybody is going to get a recorded version of this, but it is better, of course, to be live on here, especially you guys can answer questions or ask questions. So I'm going to try to call, if you guys will hang tight for just a little bit. Let me find out what we're going to do. If Vickie wants to just start over and we can stop this recording and start a new one. And if she's still, because I don't see her on voice yet, so she's still evidently having some issues. So let me call her and I'll get right back with you. Vickie?
Yes.
I see you back on. Okay, I was telling them, since of the time, do we want to start, because you had barely gotten 5 minutes or so in, do we want to just start again and us stop the recording and do another one?
I think that we should stop the recording, start over. Those people that can stay and watch it now,
Right.
they're already here, let's do it. And
Right.
the people that can't stay, they can go ahead and watch the recording later.
Right, and hang on, I'm going to get, see, I think it's going to...
Debbie, we still have one issue here. Debbie, I don't have a show my screen button live for me to show everyone my screen. All right, I think I just solved that little issue, made myself the presenter. Welcome to the QuickBooks and Quoting Budget and Forecasting webinar. We had a couple of technical difficulties here when we first got started, so if you came in at 1 o'clock and had to wait a little bit, we are going to start from the beginning right now. And if you are watching this as a recording, you missed all the excitement. Become a better manager. You can create an actual a budget based on actual numbers from the last year and kind of, using your projections of where you would like to be. And that will help you to prepare an accurate budget. If you're starting out from scratch, then you're using your best guess. And using your best guess means that you have to review it more often at the beginning to make sure that you can keep tweaking it in the right direction based on those actuals that show up every month, and you'll see how you're doing with your budget. And then you can edit your budget again through the end of the year. But let's take a look at where we actually do this work and set up budgets. It is in our company menu, Company, Planning and Budgeting, and these three tools right here, Set Up Budgets, Set Up a Forecast, and the Cash Flow Projector tool are the ones that we're going to work with today. When we click on Set Up Budgets, it's going to take me to the last budget that I was working with in this QuickBooks company file. And here it is. It's the 2010 budget. You're only allowed to have one budget per year. So here we have the 2011 and the 2010. And in order to create a new budget, you come up here and choose New Budget. Now, because I've already created a 2010 and a 2011, when I go to Create New Budget, I will have to create a budget for 2012 in order to show you the screens. So we're going to click on Create New Budget. We're going to go to 2012. I suggest that you use the profit and loss because that's the one where it will bring in our income and our expense accounts in order for us to guess at what we think our income and what we think our expenses are going to be. Or we can use the data from a previous year. It just depends on what kind of data that you've got in QuickBooks in order to access that. So we'll choose Next. Now, no additional criteria means I just want to use just the profit and loss numbers, the income accounts and the expense accounts. Those are the ones that are involved with a profit and loss situation, and so those are the ones that this budget are going to use. Now, if you wanted to make guesses based on customers and jobs, that would be unusual in our industry because we don't really know who our customer and jobs are going to be. Or if you're using classes, which is kind of an advanced feature, you could actually set up a budget based on classes. But today we're talking about profit and loss budget criteria. So we'll say Next. And we are going to create this budget from the previous year's actual data. So this budget is for 2012. I believe it's going to pull it from 2011, but we'll see how that works because I've never quite gone that far ahead on trying to create it from the previous year's actual data going, out 2 years from now. But this is how you'll normally create a budget, and then you'll tweak the numbers to what you're hoping to have happen based on those prompts that come up from what happened last year. So now we'll say, or you could choose the create budget from scratch, and it would just bring up an empty, completely empty budget that she would work with, and then say finish. So this budget right here is looking at everything that happened the previous year, bringing the numbers in for us. And frankly, I think it's bringing the numbers in from 2009 and putting them into 2012. So because it didn't, it's just looking at last year, not a 2012 budget looking at 2011. It's just a budget for 2012 looking at the last year, which is 2009. So that answers that question for us. Now, let's say that this number came in for $9,124. That's what we did last year in consulting. And because this is kind of an odd company file, it's not got regular data, it comes from doing seminars, it all kind of fell down in the September date. But we're going to pretend it happened throughout the year. And we got our annual number right here at the very first column. And we're going to spread that income out over 12 years by typing in this number field, $9,124. 9124. Now, we can use the automatic calculator feature in QuickBooks. Any place that's a number field, it will allow you to use the calculator. You just have to tell QuickBooks that you want to use the calculator by using one of the numeric keys. And divide is the slash that's underneath the question mark. So we're going to divide right now. And we want to divide by 12 for 12 months. We just type in the 12 and see how that little calculator pops up. Then when we hit enter, it will divide that out for us. And we see that that's $760. And we're thinking, well, I'd like to do a little better this year than I did last year. So I'm going to aim for $900 through the months. Now this little feature down here where it says copy across is very handy. Now that we've got 900 in here, we can just say, please copy that all the way across. QuickBooks puts the $900 per month all the way across, and we come up with a new number for 10/8. Now let's do that again for fabric and trims. Last year we did $7,993 in fabric and trim sales. And so we're going to take the 7,993, divide it by 12, hit enter, and we come up with 666. So we're thinking, well, if we're going to do more consulting, we'll probably sell more fabric. So I would like to make that $800 a month. $800 in our field, copy across, and we have our new budget number on an average all the way across through all the months. So that's how you take the existing information and divide it out by 12 and make it fall through the months. So you would want to do that for all the different categories. And if you intended to maybe sell more cabinetry this year than you did last year, then you could send in a new number, copy it across, and that way. Now, let's take a look at what this adjust row amounts means. Instead of copying across, we'll say adjust the row amounts. I'm going to sell more cabinetry this year. And I would like to start out by selling $500 a month the first month, but increase it by 10% every month. Then you would just say 10% up here and say okay. And now QuickBooks did that for 1 month. So let's say that we want it to increase each monthly amount in this row by this dollar amount of percentage. We want it to do 10%. And enable the compounding. And now we've got it increasing across every month. So every month it increased by 10% from the beginning of the month. So the first month you start selling cabinetry as a new kind of item, then you would expect to sell more throughout the year. So you're building that portion of your business. So that's one way to use the adjust row amounts. Now, let's go back to our 2010 budget and make some assumptions about that one. So it saved my 2012 budget and sent me back to my 2010. Now this is one where I've kind of done all the tweaking already, and I've looked at all of the different categories where I expect to make money. I've come down into the bottom section, and I've also made assumptions on what I think my expenses will be for all those things. And I did my cost of goods based on what I thought my sales would be. And then I did my general business expenses here at the bottom. And I tweaked those based on my averages from the year before, so it was really easy to do and get right. Now, periodically, as you're working with your budget numbers, you should really click Save. So that budget is saved now, and I am going to open up my dialog box here and see if we have any questions before we go on to looking at the reports that go with this budget. So let's see if we got any questions here. Remember, if you have questions, you have to type them into the dialog box, and that will tell us that you need to, Sue Ellen, I hope that you understand the calculate feature in the number field. And return on investment. Jennifer asks if there's a way to track return on investment in QuickBooks. Return on investment is where you take what are your assets, what's the investment that you've got in your company, what kind of income is it generating for you, and that's a ratio that you apply to numbers that are in QuickBooks. The best way that I've found to do that is to export reports from QuickBooks into Excel and then use the ratio that you need to get ROI, or return on investment. And I talk about that in greater detail in the course called SCORE, Keeping Score. And Kristen says that while she was waiting for us to get started again, she went in to set up a new budget and she followed Vickie's steps, but none of my numbers showed up in the report. It's all zeros. More than likely, that's because you either started with a from-scratch budget, or there wasn't any data in the prior year in order for you to have those numbers come in automatically. Now, the cost of goods totals, do they need to be less than the sales numbers? Yes, because typically your cost of goods numbers are going to be, let's take a look at that here. Let's take a look at fabric and trim. Up here in my budget, I said, okay, this year I want to do $7,800 in fabric and trims. And so I've estimated that I'll sell about $650 a month. So when I come down to my cost of goods at the bottom, I'm guessing that my cost of goods for that is going to be a little less than 50%. 7,600 was my number. 7,800 was my number up here. If I come into this field, the first one, and type in 7,800 and divide that by 2, which would be half of what my sales are going to be, it tells me that my cost of goods would be about $3,900 for the year if I'm only getting a 50% or 100% markup, 50% margin. So if we think that we're going to actually do a little bit better than that, we're going to mark it up a little bit more. I'm going to guess that my cost of goods will be $3,600. I'll divide that by 12, and that gives me a 3,600 divided by 12 gives me a $300 number, copied it across, and that gives me my cost of goods. So if you have a number up here for sales, and you can guess at about what your, like let's say the flooring right here is, you're projecting $2,000 a month in sales, then down here in the, see the flooring number right there, that's half that I've projected as my cost of goods. Now, depending on what you know you mark things up, you want to adjust that cost of goods number based on what you think you're going to sell. The numbers below that are more general business expenses like your auto, fuel, internet expense, all of that, those come from just what you anticipate that you'll be spending in those different categories. We've got $400 a month, or almost $5,000 a year budgeted for education, seminars, and webinars. So you, if you're new in the business, you want to make a bigger budget number for that to try to get trained early on to learn to do different things for your business. So those are how you get the different numbers, and of course we've tweaked some things, so we're going to choose Save. Now you need to choose Save in order to save your changes before you start looking at the reports. So let's take a look at the budget overview so we can see how 2010, our plan for that, our budget for that is going to take shape. So you go up under Reports, Budgets and Forecasts, Budget Overview. We want to use the 2010 budget, and then we say Next, Next, and Finish. Then the Profit and Loss Budget Overview report comes up. Now the first thing we need to change is the date parameters for the year. You can change them with the year calendar things there, or you can come over here and just say this fiscal year. And it's done it by the months here, so you could take a look at how every month was going to come out. But what I really want to take a look at right now is the whole year overview. So we're just going to choose the columns to be the year. So we've got one column here. It says that we're going to make about $132,766 in profit. Now, there is no number or budget number in this particular budget for taking money out for the owner's draw or payroll. So keep that in mind, that that number is doesn't have any payroll for myself in it yet. So that's the budget overview, but there are some other things that you can do to tweak it. This particular one has the zero amounts already out of it because that's up on into the modify report, and it's not bringing in any of our zero amounts already. It's defaulted that way. So here we've got our nice little budget, and I think that that's a pretty healthy little profit to think about. And in your white papers for today, the budget report, the overview report, has been exported to Excel and put into 3 columns just so that I could get it on one page in your white papers. And if you did not get your white papers downloaded, don't worry about that. They will still be available for you to go back into that email that you got from GoToMeeting with the webinar link in it. Towards the bottom, there's a link where you can click in and print out the white papers that went with today's class. Now let's take a look at the next kind of report that you're going to want to look at on a monthly or a quarterly basis, and that's the profit and loss budget versus your actual numbers. So we'll go to Reports, again, same place, Budgets and Forecasts, Budget versus Actual. That's the second one. We're still going to be using the 2010 budget. Next, and we're going to look at it by month this time. Well, actually, let's look at it by month. We can change that to quarter when we get to the report. Say Next and Finish, and see how we've got January 1 to January 12 is what's showing up here. But if we take this parameter and change it to the quarter, and we change this parameter to this fiscal year, now we've got January through March, the budget numbers, and we have what we're over budget or under budget here, and we have the percent budget numbers here, and we have the actuals over here. Of course, there's no actuals in this company file for 2010 yet. That's why we don't see anything coming up there. Now, let's say that it was the end of March, and you just kind of wanted to look at just that first quarter. Just change the parameters, January through March, refresh, and now you've got the January through March actuals that will show up here, the budget that will show up here, and you'll be able to see where you're over or under in this column. I do use the percent sometimes a little bit, but quite often I'll go into the Modify Report, and on the first page, you can just remove the percent column if you're not using that one. And there it's gone. So that's how you can look at your budget. Now, the budget numbers, you can't change them here. You can't drill down into them. You can drill down into these numbers. So if a number showed up here and you wanted to see how that was calculating, you could just, the little Z magnifying glass allows you to double-click on that and take a look at it. If you wanted to change this number, let's say that this was you already you decided to concentrate on bedding and pillows, and that number is already averaging like $2,000 a month, and you know you're way off on that $900 budget number, you need to go back into setup budgets. You have to go back up to the bedding sales number, and your quarter number was $900. It wasn't $900 a month. It was $900 for the quarter. But you already saw that you're going to be doing about $2,000 a month because you're just selling bedding like crazy. So you would want to come back in here and type in 2,000, and then copy it across, hit save. Then when you come back to your profit and loss budget versus actual, it refreshes. It refreshes. Let's take a look at that. Set up budgets. 2,000 bedding and pillows. Save. And profit and loss budget versus actual. And refresh. That number should refresh to 2,000. Let's go in and pick up the report again. Budget versus actual, 2010. Next, finish. And we're going to choose through the end of March. And we'll choose by the quarter. And I do not know why that number is not picking up for me. It keeps saying that we need a refresh. That's 2010. And save. And OK. And refresh. Well, there seems to be a little glitch. It's probably me. Probably something that I'm just not picking up here. There's our budget versus profit and loss budget overview. Take a look at bedding on that one. $3,600 for the year. We go to the quarter, refresh. Still says $900 in income. $900 in income for the budget January through March. Close both of those reports. Go back into company budgets, set up budgets, bedding and pillows. Doesn't seem to have saved our change.
Vickie?
Yes?
Vickie, everybody's telling you on the thing that you're in the wrong. Let me see. I was
clicking on the wrong thing?
Yes. Vickie, you're in cost of goods, not income. You entered it under cost of goods. And there's a bunch
of pillows, 2,000. Sales. See right here, sales, 2,000.
But they said you made that change somewhere else. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 people telling you.
Okay,
you're
then
changing.
Down to, oh, yeah, they were right. See, cost of goods.
That's what.
Oh,
all right.
Lord. So really, if we're going to do 2,000 a month, our cost of goods should change to 1,000. And then we'll save that. We'll go back to the report. QuickBooks is never wrong. It's usually operator error. I was pretty sure of that, but I just couldn't see it. So now we'll go into our budgets report, budget overview, use the 2010, and I should have looked in my question area because y'all would have helped me out had I just looked there. So let's change this to the quarter for columns. And this says January through March. Now we have a nice $6,000 change there. Bedding and pillows cost of goods at $3,000 a quarter, and you can see how you can make the changes. Actually, you probably all learned a lot more from that based on me making a mistake and getting a nice long look at how to make those changes, save them, and see them in the report. I appreciate everybody's help with that. Now, let's talk about forecasting. We're going to take a look at the cash flow forecaster report or feature that is up here under planning and budgets and this cash flow projector. But this setup forecast, where I have seen a lot of people get confused, is in the report area, reports, company and financial, way down at the bottom here, they have something called a cash flow forecast. Now, the wording in that report makes you think that it's going to work either with the cash flow forecaster tool that we're going to see in a minute, or that it would work with forecasts that you create in QuickBooks. Now, from an accounting point of view, from what I understand, the classes that I've taken and talking with my accountant, is that a budget is more of a plan for what do I think I'm going to get as income and what do I think I'm going to have as expenses. And it's kind of a flat, linear, one-dimensional kind of plan. A forecast is typically the next level up. What do I think that I'm going to take in a period as income, and what do I think I'm going to spend, and what kind of cash will I have at the end of every month or quarter or whatever, forecasting my position at the end of all of those assumptions that I made. So you would think that the cash flow forecast would work with the, if you come up under company, planning and budgeting, this set up a forecast. Well, it doesn't. They have absolutely nothing to do with the other. When you set up a budget and you come in here to set up budgets, that screen opens up with all those columns so you can put your budget numbers in or you can pull them from the previous year. A forecast, when you open it up, is exactly the same thing. You can have a budget for 2010 and you can have a forecast for 2010. So it's kind of like the ability to have a budget for an accounting period and a forecast for an accounting period. But the report, this is not tied to that other report that has a similar name at all. When you come up under reports, budgets and forecasts, you can get a forecast overview, and it's exactly the same kind of report as the budget overview, except that this forecast overview report looks at this forecast. So it's like having two budget features in QuickBooks, only they called one a budget feature, they called the other one a forecast feature, but they work exactly the same way. So you have the ability to have two budgets for 2010. One will be called a budget, and the other one will be called a forecast. But they don't have anything to do with that report that's under company and financial and says cash flow forecast. So that report is entirely different. It's more about what will my cash position be at the end of this goes out for 6 weeks. You can set it so that it will go out further than that. But what it's going to do is only take what's your cash position at the beginning. What do you have in accounts receivable, which is what do people owe you, what do you have in accounts payable, what do you owe other people as far as bills that you've posted, and what's in the bank right now. So you get this position at the beginning of $24,000. People owe you $2,694. You have bills posted. You owe other people $10, but you have $21,000 in the bank, so your cash position is $24,626 at the beginning. And then it says, oh, okay, so now if you have people that have invoices due and you've posted them and they owe you at some other point in time, later on you think the money will come in based on that due date. And if you posted bills that you're going to pay later on and their due dates come up in any of these other dates, they'll come up in here, and then it creates a new cash position at the end of every year, at the end of every week in this particular report. Now, you can also change the reporting periods. What I don't find helpful about this is that there's no way to say, I haven't posted all my bills through the end of this period because I haven't gotten the bill yet. So there's no way to kind of adjust it and say it's very flat. It's a very one-dimensional kind of report. What do people owe you that you have in invoices that you've already posted? No opportunity to say, yeah, but I know I'm going to have this one and this one and this one and this one in this week, but I'm not ready to create the invoices yet. So it's a very flat, one-dimensional report. So what happens is that you want to go back up under Company, Planning and Budgeting, and look at the Cash Flow Projector tool. Now that particular tool we talk about on page 5. And it will open up a wizard when I click on this that helps you go through all the screens. So here it is, and it has, the steps up here are going to be telling you, how you're coming through the steps. And this is more of just kind of a welcome screen. So we're going to choose Next. And now QuickBooks wants you to set up how this is going to work. It says, oh, you've got a checking account in your chart of accounts, and it has $9,693 in it right now. And in your undeposited funds, which is just an account where we're holding some checks that we've accepted from customers, but they're still laying around on our desk or in a safe place waiting for us to go to the bank. So that's kind of like your cash. That's your cash position. You've got money in the bank. You've got money you need to take to the bank. So that gives you a current balance of $21,942. But you know that really there's this other account that you could tap for some cash very quickly, maybe a money market, but it's not really in here. But you kind of think of it as being a part of your ability to pay something with, and it's got about $5,000 in it. So this particular report allows you to click into that field and type in extra cash that you know about. But QuickBooks doesn't quite know about it. So we'll say Next. Now, that money is over there, and then this screen allows you to add in anticipated money coming in. So that beginning balance you created over here, now we're saying, okay, I don't have these invoices made yet, but I know that my showroom is going to give me about $3,000 a week. So I've put in some for this week, some for this week, some for the week of the 31st. And those numbers will come up in here, show up at the bottom there, based on what, you can add them. You can add the date here, let's say on the 10th. You know that you're going to get money from Jones, Mary, for $5,000, because that's a job that's hanging out there and you know you're going to get the money. So when you hit Tab, that money comes in and becomes a part of the whole thing. Now, once you're here and you want to kind of see what it's going to look like so far, you can preview your projection by clicking on Preview Projection. And whereas that one report was very flat and very linear, now you can look and say, oh, okay, well, the current week, right now, I began with a cash position of this, because remember I added about $5,000 to it in that one screen, and I expect to have payroll liabilities of about $300. That was in the next screen we're going to look at. And I've got some accounts payable with an adjustment in there, so my cash position will be $20,856. So this is just kind of a preview so far of the information we've entered. And then when you say Next, you're allowed to come in and say, and I know, in addition to the bills that I've posted, I'm going to have payroll expenses and payroll liabilities and advertising, and I'm going to have some rent that's going to come due for the building, and that's going to be due on 2/1. We'll put in that date, and the frequency is monthly, and it's going to be $800. Now watch down here in this area right there. See how that brought up the number to 2,200? If we go back in here and watch this number right here, where I'm going to take it back out, and it took it back out. Well, we've got to take the number out. Okay, now it's gone. We come back in there, put in rent on 2/1. Well, 2/1, and then it's going to happen monthly. and then we'll put in the $800. Watch when I hit tab what happens down here. So it's saying that our accounts payable, we were able to adjust it up, kind of making more guesses. So this is like a budget. You're making these guesses, and it's telling you what your cash position will be at the end of all these assumptions. So you're able to take a look at forecasting versus budgeting using the, I didn't mean to close out of that. Planning and budgeting, cash flow projector. It loads it. Next, next. And see how all our things stayed in there? And next. And this was our business expenses that we expect to have. And then these are the accounts payable. We expect people to send us bills, but they're not here yet. They're not posted yet. You can put them into this particular screen. You can put them up here line by line by line by who you think the vendor will be, or you can actually come in and just change numbers down here for, let's change this $400 to $7,800. And you can change it just as a big round number at the bottom down there if you don't want to see the actual detail. When you change the number down here and we click on Finish the Projection, now you can see how that number came in as a big number all by itself, but it didn't have a vendor over here associated. So if you add it line by line, you'll be able to see Fabrica, Casimir, Rowley Company, the bills that you expect to see in accounts payable, or you can just kind of make a nice round number adjustment in there and see your forecast. And then this tells you what your cash balance will be at the end of this 6-week period. It doesn't allow you to do this for longer than 6 weeks. That's not one of your, see, this parameter only takes you out for this 6-week period. And so that's how you look at the cash flow projection. Now I'm going to go to questions to see if there's any more questions here. Bring it out. Let's see. The cost of goods totals need to be less. We talked about that. And the extra cash is company cash or personal cash available to lend to the company. All of the things that we're looking at in that cash flow projector is about company money. If we were to go back to the cash flow projector, take a look at that, company, and planning and budgeting, cash flow projector, you can see how we can, we're back in it. And if you wanted to say, okay, in accounts payable or business expenses, I want to do an owner's draw each one of these weeks. So we're going to do an owner's draw. Let's see. Let's just call it a draw. And we're going to start with week number 117 on that. That's this one right here. And I want that to happen weekly. And I'm going to pull out $10,000 a month, because I want you to see a nice, great, big adjustment in this whole thing. So watch everything that happens down here in the screen when I hit tab. Oh, now we got 11,000, 11,000, 12, 2, 11. You could have done that on the budget screen, but it wouldn't have told you your cash position at the end of each period. Now if we go to preview the projection after we made this big change, you can see, ooh, well, if you do that, you're going to be running out of cash here in just a real short little bit. So you're probably not going to be able to do that draw of $10,000 a week for that. So this just helps you to manage your cash, manage what you are anticipating as payables, as business expenses, as money coming in. Each one of those screens allows you to do a little more guessing based on your cash position now, your anticipated cash coming in. You can enter those all in. And what do you think your business expenses will be over that period of time? And then your accounts payable. What bills do you expect to come in for accounts payable? So this screen for accounts payable and this screen for business expenses can be somewhat similar. But see, most of these I've put in here are not really about jobs. It's about payroll and advertising and rent to be paid, a draw that you would like to do. And if you change the 10,000 to 1,000 and then finish your projection, now you can take $1,000 a week. Your cash position stays pretty good, and you can see where you're at. So it's all about projecting whether you've got enough cash to get through the next 6 weeks versus just creating a budget for the year. So that's how those different reports under company, planning and budgeting, you can set up a budget, you can set up a forecast, which is virtually the same thing as a budget, just a different name for the same kind of feature in QuickBooks. But they both have reports that you can run separately on each one. So you can have maybe a budget that's conservative, but a forecast that is more aggressive or even more pessimistic based on how you think your business is going to be. So you can only have one budget per year. You can have one forecast per year, but that gives you the ability to have something similar. And your next question is probably going to be, can I copy my numbers from this budget to this forecast? And no, you cannot. You would have to create those both separately. And then the cash flow projector tool is about what is my cash position at the end of these assumptions. And the cash flow projector does not look at budgets. Cash flow projector does not look at forecasts. They're not integrated very well. So I end up personally setting up budgets, setting up forecasts, and doing more of my cash projection in Excel. Especially with a bigger business, I need to go out further than 6 weeks to see what my cash position is going to be. So I tend to use the report under budgets or forecasts, send them to Excel, and then use Excel skills and Excel features in order to maybe do forecasting for a cash position for longer periods of time out in Excel. So you have to kind of brush up on your Excel skills to be able to go further than that out. Now, in our handout, that's pretty much all we've got as far as what's in the handout, but I would be happy to answer anybody's questions on budgeting or how to use any of these tools. Let me check the question area again. Let's see if anybody has come up. What is this cash flow used for? How do you use it? It's just the cash flow projector tool is just saying based on what kind of cash I've got today and what kind of income I expect and what kind of expenses I expect, what will be my cash position at the end of each one of those periods. If you are in a business and you're getting set to do a large expansion, everything can be very, very profitable, but you might run out of money. That is usually one of the biggest dangers of actually expanding a business, is that you can expand faster than what you can collect on your accounts receivable or what people owe you, and you can end up having a profitable business that can't pay its bills, and then there just gets to be this kind of big old screeching halt to all kinds of things, because people don't like to send you materials if you don't pay your bills, and they don't really want to hear about the people that are going to pay you later on. So it's really important as your business grows to be able to manage your cash, and forecasting allows you to do that. So when do you want to use the setup forecast item that we saw up here under company, planning and budgeting? Is just if you need a second budget. This is a budget. This is a budget with another name. That's all the difference is between those two features. And short-term projection, yes, Maggie, that's exactly what I would call the forecasting, the company, the cash flow projector. That is a short-term projection. I tend to like to see a little bit longer-term projections, but there's a lot of times that a short-term, just a 6 weeks away, projection works very, very well. Are there any other questions today? I'd like to tell you about a new program as soon as we get done with the questions called the Right Start Coaching Program. Kristen, you don't have the setup forecast or use the business tool plan. Let me check on something here real quick. If we go up under toggle to pro, I'm going to toggle to a pro version and see what the choices are in pro versus the Premier edition that I was demonstrating in. And QuickBooks is thinking about doing that right now. Next, toggle. And it's closing QuickBooks. And it's going, I'll have to open it back up. I want to see if your question relates to the version of QuickBooks that you're in. Now we're in a pro version of QuickBooks versus a Premier. See that up here? I just changed my version. That's a magic trick I can do with my QuickBooks as a QuickBooks Pro advisor that you will not be able to do with yours. So company planning and budgeting. Premier version allows you to do a forecast, but Pro does not. See, those features are not available. So that was a very good question. You'll have just the budget feature, only one per year, and the cash flow projector if you're working in the Pro version. And let's take a look and see if we have any other questions at this point. And okay, I do not see something that says please print. Murray, could you tell me where you're referencing please print, that you wanted to see that? If it was in one of the reports or if it was in your budget. When you're in the budget, go into the Pro version of it here, company, planning and budgeting, set up budget. See, here's the budget. And you can save it, but you can't print it from this view. You have to go to reports, budgets, budget overview, make sure that you're choosing the right budget, next, finish. The report comes up here, and we want to do January 1st to March 31st. We'll show that. This is the overview by month for a quarter. And you could print your overview here, but you can't print it in the screen where you're setting up the budgets. Was that your question, Murray? Oh, when you're asking about the white pages. In your email that you got from GoToMeeting, towards the bottom it says please print, and then there's a link below that. I don't really want to open up my Outlook right now because we'll just get hit with a deluge of emails that have been backing up while I've had it closed. So at the bottom of that, if you still can't figure that out, just give the office a call. Lee will get you a link where you can get those white papers printed later there.
Vickie?
Yeah?
Vickie, or we could tell Murray too, and anybody or everybody that that sees that link, all you need to do is copy and paste copy the link. Copy that link when it says please print. Copy that text or the link text. Then paste it into your browser, and then it would go straight to the link, and then it'll pop up the PDF. It's a PDF document with all the notes from the webinar today.
Okay. Kristen, you've asked a question about you must have chosen the wrong setup when you started your new budget. Is there a way to go back in and have it use my numbers from last year? I don't think, let's see, if we go to the company budget, set up budgets, and we go to create a new budget, and we choose 2010, and say next, and finish, it just takes us back to the budget that we were in. So no, you can't like say, okay, I don't like the 2010 budget that I created before, so I just, because I chose to do it from scratch, now I would like to have it flood with the numbers from last year. No, it won't. It just keeps the numbers that you put in before. It says you can edit it, but you can't change the parameters of how it was set up. So I guess the answer to your question is no. I hate to see that. Jennifer asks, she says she has Pro right now, and she's going to be updating to Premier, and can you transfer the data from Pro to Premier? The way that this works is that when you create a company file, and it has all of your company data in it from whenever you started using QuickBooks until now, all of that data stays in that company file just like it was. And when you buy a new version of Premier, let's say the 2010 Premier, you will be abandoning, if you decide to do that, your 2008 or 2010 Pro QuickBooks, and you'll be installing the new Premier 2010. And so the new program loads, and it will go back and look and use that same company file. Or you can create another company file. But the data is one thing, the program is another thing. And the program will always go back and look at the data set, the data files, and you'll be able to do that. So it's not really transferring data any place. It's just saying, okay, I've got this new program, and here's my data file. Take a look at that and tell me, and start using that. It'll require you to make a backup of that, before it says, oh, you want to use it with 2010. We'll do that for you. We'll convert it to a 2010 data file, but you'll have to back it up first. And so that's how that works. So it's not really a transfer. It's just a way of using it. So if that's all the questions that we have today, I'd like to talk to you about the Right Start coaching program. This is a program that we just started this year. What we see is people that start using QuickBooks, whether you've been using QuickBooks for a long time or you're a brand new user, if you will take a period of time and really immerse yourself in that QuickBooks program and learn how all the different features work and how things are connected to each other, those are the people that have the best experience over a period of time. If you've been using QuickBooks for a long time and you kind of want to start with a fresh new company file, it's a great opportunity to kind of tweak and change some things up, how you run your business in QuickBooks and how you use the different features. So what we've created is a 6 weeks coaching program where you'll have a weekly group session. We're only allowing 10 people in a group, and so it's very one-on-one, hands-on. It's a webinar like this today, only instead of asking your questions through the dialog box like we have to do when we have a large group like today, you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask me a question. We'll talk through whatever we're looking at and whatever we're learning, and then you'll mute yourself again and we'll go on. So you'll be able to ask questions live in those group sessions. And then in addition to that, every week you will have a private session with me for an hour. So you can either work on your lesson, that we went over that week, or we can take a look at your QuickBooks and say, the lesson we had this week, it pertains to my QuickBooks this way, and we can actually look and work with your QuickBooks and get you going and with your QuickBooks. And so there'll be a different lesson every week for 6 weeks, and you'll also get a manual that goes along with that where you can keep all of your lessons in it. There will be a project at the end of the week that you need to finish before the next week and hand it in order to receive your WFCP credits or your IDQ certification. Now, WFCP is the certification program that's offered through Window Fashions, and the IDQ is Interior Design QuickBooks certification offered through Minutes Matter. And we have taken those IDQ classes different places across the United States. We have one coming up in Texas, but that will probably be our last one that we'll take on the road, because we find that people are needing to get these certifications but be able to do it online and not have to travel for that. So we are offering these certifications online. It's normally going to be a little over $800 for the certification or the coaching program for 6 weeks. We have a special price of $697 that's being offered. Actually, the first group starts next week with their 6 weeks worth of coaching, and that's sold out within just a couple of days. And so we opened up a second group that will start on February the 11th. If you're at all interested, you'll want to go to the Minutes Matter website to order that, or your Window Fashions. There's a link, I believe, there also. You have to be registered as WFCP in order to get the special pricing. But you'll want to do it right away, because I don't think that the second group will, it'll probably sell out fairly quickly, too. We've started sending emails out about it. You can also call the Minutes Matter office, and Lee will explain it to you or get you set up for that. Minutes Matter will allow you to pay for that coaching program with the installment plan that they have, and Lee can get you set up with that also. The coaching program is for people who I have a question from Jennifer. The coaching program is for people who have Pro or Premier, 2007 to 2010 versions. It doesn't matter. So that is, it doesn't matter if you have Pro or Premier. Pro is a great product. It's just missing a few features that I find, really invaluable in QuickBooks. And Sandy's on this class, and she says she signed up for the first group, and it is going to start next week on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. The private sessions, you'll be getting an email later today about the time slots for those, and you can get set up for those. And I look forward to seeing you there, Sandy. So if we don't have any other questions today, I'm going to say goodbye, and how much I appreciate all of you coming in to take the time to learn about budgeting and forecasting in QuickBooks. It's a very cool feature once you get to working with it. And let me know if you have any questions at all at Vickie, V-I-C-K-I-E, at minutesmatter.com. That's my email with Minutes Matter, Vickie, V-I-C-K-I-E, at minutesmatter.com. Thank you so much for coming today.